Okay, let's go. This is another installment of my little history with the hood guy. I speak on some shit. I keep finding myself in a little debate with people. I don't know if it's because people from different states or whatever, but I'm speaking for Texas right now. We understand the little trick about the slaves was freed or whatever by Abraham Lincoln Emancipation Proclamation, but let me explain something. Not only did Texas get the news of this newfound freedom 2 or maybe probably 3 years late, not only that, after Texas, when we were so-called free, most of the slave owners became convict leasers. Let me make you understand. Most of the slave owners began to run the penal system. They began to have convicts leasing. So every time it was time to harvest the cotton and all that shit, whatever, and they needed some more workers, convicts, slaves, shit, they went out and started arresting people for all type of trumped up charges and bullshit reasons. And I said that because, like today, if they need the fields on whichever unit you want to name, shit, they need the fields dead and they ain't got enough inmates in that motherfucker, shit, they'll petition the judge to let the police know we need to get some more shit, workers. But I'm bringing this shit up, this convict leasing shit, because after we got free from slavery in Texas, man, we dealt with Jim Crow. We dealt with segregation, man. We dealt with black codes. Or then we dealt with this fucking convict leasing shit. So when motherfucker be asking you like, damn, why are we so fucked up? Or why we ain't got our shit together yet? We just not actually getting the loose from around our motherfucking neck to even speak about what we speaking about right now. To get to this point, our other greats, Malcolm, Martin, them, they worked with what they had and they did what they could do with what they had. We got a whole lot more, so we should be able to do a whole lot more. But I'm gotta add this motherfucking video to my video to help people understand what the fuck I'm talking about, man. Because when I say it, you might not get it, man. Yeah, history with the hood guy.
Exposés of the convict labor system described it as worse than slavery. Slaves had been a significant long-term investment. A convict could be rented for as little as $9 a month.
It was never in the economic interest of a slave owner to kill his own slaves or to abuse them so terribly that they couldn't work anymore. So their economic value protected them in certain ways. After the Civil War, someone working these kinds of forced laborers would push them to the very limits of human endurance.
We are the men who do the work. Look at the white men. How many are cutting 5 or 4-ton coal per day? They are few.
Convict leasing was a source of labor where you could realize the maximum return at a minimum social cost. The feeding, of course, was next to nothing. Health was next to nothing.
Convict miners cost as much as 50 to 80% less than free miners, and could be worked 6 days a week. Their presence allowed companies to depress wages and resist unions.
When one could obtain black labor at almost no cost, the profits for that form of business were enormous.
In Florida, prisoners extracted gum and resin from tall pines and transformed it into turpentine. In Georgia, they hauled wet clay from riverbanks, molding it into the millions of bricks needed for new buildings and homes. From Texas to Louisiana, convicts forced their way through acres of virgin forest, harvesting timber and building railroads. In all, more than 15,000 prisoners worked in Southern industry in 1886. And that number was rising quickly. In many labor camps, as many as a third of male convicts were boys younger than 16. Girls and women were also forced into labor.
Over 90% of convict laborers in Georgia were African-American men. The next highest percentage would obviously be white men, but African-American women were also utilized in these various tasks in manual labor. Black women are working in brickyards, in turpentine camps, in mining camps, farms, in lumber yards.
Convict leasing becomes a new form of economic development in the South and a ubiquitous form of punishment for Southerners as the criminal justice system expanded itself.
And sweeps would take place all throughout the South, whether it was for a dice game, whether it was for an altercation, whether it was for being mouthy or uppity.
The record of thousands upon thousands of people arrested in this way is everywhere in the South. In the fall, when it was time to pick cotton, huge numbers of black people are arrested in all of the cotton-growing counties. There are surges in arrests in counties in Alabama in the days before, coincidentally, a labor agent from the coal mines in Birmingham is coming to town that day to pick up whichever county convicts are there.
Some charges were serious, but more than 2/3 of all state prisoners at the time of Zeke Archie's arrest, including Archie, were convicted under vague charges of burglary and larceny. County prisoners, too, were sent to the mines. For often trivial offenses, they faced the real possibility of death. In some Alabama prison camps, convicts died at a rate of 30 to 40% a year.
And this system is one that I think in many ways needs to be understood as brutal in a social sense, but fiendishly rational in an economic sense. Because where else could one take a black worker and work them literally to death after slavery? And when that worker died, one simply had to go and get another convict.